This is the last in our mini-series talking about time. In this video, we are going to look at the real meanings of the names of the equipment used to tell the time. We'll also look at just a few expressions about time and things associated to it. There aren't so many that we would need a whole video just to cover the whole thing. Hi, this is the Englishoneer channel. I'm Alex, and we look into what people say in English and why they say it. Clocks, as we know them today, are a relatively new technology. So about 3,500 years ago, the ancient Egyptians and the Babylonians, yes, we've seen them before, came up with an ingenious way to use the sun to tell them the time. These were the sundials. The word dial comes from the Latin dialis, meaning the day. Unfortunately, once the sun had set, they were utterly and completely useless. Hey, Socrates, what time is it? How should I know? It's bloody cloudy. Fast forward 1700 years or so in southern Germany, northern Italy, and we come across the first mechanical clock. Again, this was not like the clocks we see today. There were no faces, hands, or numbers. Instead, a bell would ring every hour. Where does the word clock come from? The old Latin name for a bell was klokje, which we see in modern French, cloche, and Dutch klok. So the word clock actually means the bell. As we said before, the sundials could only tell the time during the day. Therefore, the clock was divided into 12-hour cycles. And in order to know the time at night, people used the position of the moon or the stars. Later on, they also used water clocks. Big Ben, high up in the tower of the Palace of Westminster in London, does not actually refer to that big clock, but to the largest bell inside the tower, weighing in at a colossal 14 tons. Why do we say AM and PM? The typical 12-hour clock with the hours most commonly marked with Roman numerals, often had a means of showing whether it was day or night. They would show the abbreviations AM or PM, signifying ante-meridium and post-meridium. Meridium means midday. Why do we tell the time by saying o'clock? In English, the apostrophe denotes that there is a letter or some letters missing. Think of the word can't, which is short for cannot. In this case, the apostrophe means of the, so it's of the clock. What's the difference between clock and watch? In many languages, a watch and a clock are the same thing, or at least the same word. But any student of English knows that watch means to pay attention to something with your eyes. That's my own definition. So how did it come to mean a clock? The early meaning of watch is actually connected to the word awake. And the early watches were more to wake you up or to make sure you were not sleeping when you were supposed to be on guard against the enemy. Later, those sentinels called watches would often walk around the town, calling out something like 9 o'clock and all is well. Over time, the mechanical timepieces got smaller and smaller and were named pocket watches and then wristwatches. Where does the word alarm come from? This was a military expression that originally comes from Old Italian, all'allarme, meaning to arms, or rather, go and get your flipping weapons, the enemy are coming. What is GMT or UTC? Sailors and travelers have always needed to navigate and often used the stars and the sun to give them an idea of where they were. Before GPS, global positioning systems, or sat-navs as they are sometimes called, it was easy to tell their latitude, but much harder to determine their longitude. When nautical clocks were invented, they could work out how far they had travelled westwards or eastwards from a fixed position, and were able to determine their exact position. This fixed position was the Royal Observatory at Greenwich in London in the beginning, and therefore the longitude was measured against this, or called Greenwich Mean Time. Not Greenwich, okay? Nowadays, to allow for a more international standard, especially of time zones, and because the clocks in the UK change for summertime and others may change on different dates or even not at all, we use the abbreviation UTC, or Coordinated Universal Time. For example, Brazil is at UTC -3. Turkey is at UTC +3, and the Philippines at UTC +8. What is military time? In order to avoid communication mistakes, the military, together with a variety of other organizations around the world, adopted the 24-hour clock. Imagine if someone said, "We are going to attack at 8 o'clock p.m." and the other person misunderstood or misheard AM for PM. What a disaster that would be. So now they use the terms like 1000 hours or 1000 for 10 a.m., 1530 for 3:30 p.m. and 0030 for midnight. Hello, I'm Bud Wiser Light, and news just in. Surfers around the world have gone completely insane. Our reporters have attempted to interview them and have received answers that only aliens or those fluent in gibberish could understand. Let's go over to our reporter in the field, Luke Ingood. Luke, what's the situation at the moment?
Thank you, Bud. Well, I must say that parents and English teachers are really worried about what has happened to the minds of these athletes. Here are some of the questions we put to them. So, what happened to you today?
Just drop in and just smack the lip, whoop-ah, drop down, snap, and then after that, you just drop in, just ride the barrel and get pitted.
And how would you welcome somebody who wants to come and surf with you?
I'll probably paddle right up to them and say, "You totally shoulder hop me, you're a kook. How about you sit on the peak for once instead of blowing up on it, like ruining everyone's waves." It's causing hazards. He could fall, drop in on me, and then this board could hit my board while I'm in the barrel. Maybe go back to Bolsa Chica.
Do you have any messages for anybody today?
Yeah, aloha, brothers, sisters, everyone out there on the way watching. Stay trying to pull away for the boys over here. Yeah, cheering for our girls too out there, Malia, Alana, all the kinds. Mahalo.
As you can see, they have completely lost the ability to speak English. This is a worldwide phenomenon from Australia to Hawaii and California. Medical specialists in speech disorders have absolutely no idea what to do.
We have absolutely no idea what to do at all.
One remedy, it has been suggested, is to watch the innovative Englishoneer channel. Liking and subscribing to this channel are considered sure ways to improve your ability to speak. There is even the possibility, I've been told, to click on the bell and be notified when a new video is posted. And apparently you can always leave a message in the comments section if you have a question, want to try out a new phrase, or want to make a suggestion for other videos. Oh, that's a good idea. Hey, I think I'll do that. Hi guys, great fan of your video. Have you thought about doing a video on the origins of names? I thought Luke would be a good one to start with. Sorry about that. Back to you in the studio, Bud.
Expressions. There are simply so many expressions in English about time. Here are just a few of them. In the small hours. This refers to the early morning, as the small numbers refer to number 1, 2, or 3 a.m. For example, she's a bit of an insomniac, and if she wakes up in the small hours of the night, she finds it very hard to get back to sleep. Once in a blue moon. This means very rarely. A blue moon was the second full moon in a month, which occurred very rarely, once every 33 months to be precise. For example, I don't go to the cinema very often these days. Once in a blue moon there is a movie I really want to see. In the nick of time, with very little time to spare before something bad happens. For example, the agent was able to defuse the bomb in the nick of time, with just 1 second remaining on the countdown clock. Like clockwork, something that runs smoothly without errors and delays. Regularly. For example, we planned everything very carefully, and now the operation is running like clockwork. A whale of a time. Just imagine, a whale is something very big, so this means a great time. For example, the kids had a whale of a time at the party, and we parents had a whale of a time not having to keep our eye on the kids. The clock is ticking. The time you have to do something is very limited and running down. For example, you have to decide which universities you want to apply to. The clock is ticking and the deadline is just a few days away. To kill time. To fill the day or the period while you are waiting for an appointment or a set time. For example, I arrived early at the airport and browsed around the various stores to kill time before takeoff. It's high time. The time has already passed when you should have done something. For example, Johnny, it's high time you learned to tie your shoelaces on your own. You're 33 years old, for God's sake. To lose track of time. To not realize what time it is or how quickly time has passed. For example, I was looking at some short videos on TikTok and I lost track of time. Before I knew it, it was midnight. Well, that's all we have time for today, so thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it or at least learned something new. If you do have any questions and want us to look at something in other videos, please leave a comment in the section below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.